Hello, everyone. I have recently been collecting data from the community on what they think about OOTP as a whole, and today we're going to be discussing that data and also changes that I would like to see made to OOTP that I think need to be made to OOTP in the near future. Anyways, with that, let's go ahead and dive into it. So the first question on this survey was on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate OOTP as a game? So this is essentially what people think about OOTP as a whole is pretty positive. We have the most results in the 9, a good number of 10s as well, a lot of 8s, very little below 8, only 1 6. So everyone who responded thinks OOTP is an above average game, which makes sense if you're involved in enough to be in a Discord for it. Anyways, what is your favorite OTP feature and why? So a lot of people saying perfect team, a lot of people saying online leagues and competitiveness, the realisticness of the game essentially, developing the depth of OTP seems to be the big thing, the number of options available. So there's a lot of that kind of thing. A couple of people saying historical, etc. What about OTP would you like to see improved in the near future? There's a large number of diversity, or a large amount of diversity, I should say, with the responses here. So a lot of them are just quality of life things. Some of them are gameplay things. Obviously, AI logic is a big one, especially with the downturn in the AI quality this year. Interactions with players and AI GM logic, that kind of thing. That's absolutely a big deal. The impact of defense is unrealistic, so that kind of thing is absolutely up there. StatCast, which has been on the wish list for years now. Contact and base game to better reflect average, since it's not actually very accurate right now. If they're going to have it and have it so complicated, they should at least have it reflect average. I can see that being a good thing to ask for. Smart AI, auto spam quick tournaments, so immediately joining them in PT rather than having to join them manually. The user interface could use a big overhaul, which that's certainly fair as well. The assistant GMs aren't doing things that are detrimental to the team. That certainly makes sense. Reverse of shop a player, that's certainly something that could be interesting as well. So a lot of things here, a lot of diversity with the comments, and I can absolutely see a lot of those things being important to OTP, especially with the AI changes. That's definitely been a big step back for OTP this year. What is one dream feature you'd like to see in an ideal baseball simulator that you don't see OTP adding in the near future? So this one I expected a lot more wild responses than we got, but we certainly got a good number of things. Female players, which I think is just kind of ridiculous that OTP hasn't added them yet, but yeah, that absolutely should be in the game. Accounting for left-handed first baseman advantage over righties and pickoff attempts. That's your dream thing? Okay. Sure, why not? Not sure. Okay, StatCast base engine, definitely that's on the wish list for a lot of people, but OTP almost certainly not going to add it. Live online mode, which would be awesome as well, like what Madden has or other games like that, where you don't have to export in order to get things to work, and you don't have to have the complex system set up, where it would be easier to do online leagues. Draft stats that matter, so things that could potentially tell you about a player's current ratings. That, yeah, draft stats are completely useless right now. I don't think that that's really something you can get useful in real life, but yeah, sure, I can see it to some extent. Extensions for printing directly into spreadsheet format. That would be nice, but honestly, I don't think that's not too hard to do right now. There are videos out there about that. You can do that kind of easily. I think I actually had a video on that kind of recently as well. OTP is my ideal baseball sim. Okay. Return of MPB functionality. Yep. Obviously, that would be nice. That's never going to happen, though. But yeah, better AI. Oof. Oof. Yeah. I think it better improve in the near future. It usually does, but yeah, recently, who knows? Contests like Perfect Team for the base game. Yeah, okay. So once again, easier multiplayer functionality. Trade screen player grouping. You can kind of do that right now. Specific training for players, so telling them to focus on a certain development rate. Yeah, that would be nice for sure. Perfect Team should be free download. I do agree. You can kind of do that with OTP Go right now. But yeah, other than OTP Go, you can't do it. And obviously, OTP Go is really messy to do perfect team. Relevant StatCast metrics. So once again, StatCast based engine. More interactions with players. Sure, that would be nice. Make the game as hard to win the world. Yeah, this is something I would like to see as well. It's way too easy to win the World Series in OTP. Even at the highest difficulties, it's not even close to what a real team would face in difficulty. You can perennially win the World Series. There's no need to rebuild once you reach a certain point, which is, yeah, that's something that OTP should definitely have. Directed training for players. So that we talked about earlier. Less like a real MLB season. So changing the format of PT. I don't think you're going to see that either. Yeah, but that would be interesting. More detailed player progression screen so it's easier to reveal the progress that players are making. Okay, that would be interesting, sure. Once again, the online leagues, that seems to be a big sticking point, and frankly, I can understand why. It would be nice if it was easy to do online leagues. Mitching up pitch sequence, that's never going to happen just based on the way that the OOTP engine works. But yeah, should be nice if that could be a thing. And obviously things like StatCast, completely and totally skill-based MMO. I don't know if you're ever going to get that. I don't even know what that would look like, frankly. It's stadium and facilities management, like what Madden has probably. Could be interesting, yeah. How much money do you think OTP is worth every year to migrate? So I asked this question because OTP is $40 at release. It can go on sale for as low as $20. And this is essentially saying how much you think it's worth to upgrade to the new OTP every year. So we got a little more than half of people, about 60%, saying it's worth the full price, and about a third of people saying it's worth $20, a small minority saying it's worth less. Which, okay, that's fair. I mean, you're buying the game, so presumably that makes sense. And for the biggest reasons to buy the game every year, almost half of people saying overhauls the engine to make it more realistic or challenging, which I would agree with is the biggest reason to buy the game every year. That is absolutely the best thing and also the biggest disappointment to me with 24, the fact that the game is not more realistic or challenging. New features given by about a third of the respondents, that I can certainly see as well, although I'm very disappointed with new features recently. Yeah, that's the biggest thing that they're parading out there for sure when you're buying the game. And then a couple of people saying perfect team, optimization of simulation speed, one person, live roster updates, one person. So those are probably secondary for most people in buying the game. And if you only play perfect team, what is the biggest reason you don't play or scarcely play base game? I hardly had anyone respond to this other than the others. So that may have just been people putting that because they do play base game or something. But two people saying perfect team is more their style of game. Base game has too many issues. Perfect team offers a better competitive environment. One response each. And finally, I asked how big of a deal are OTP glitches like issues with the PT card releases, the NPB copyright violation, and other avoidable issues on the side of the developer. And I say avoidable because to some extent you can't entirely blame OTP for them, but they're absolutely their fault. They could have been avoided in many cases. And a lot of people more lower frustration. Most people are medium level of frustration with it. So one would be pretty much you don't care at all. 5 would be the game's almost unplayable because of these issues. So only 4 people particularly upset about these issues out of the 28 respondents, so 1/7 of people. A lot of people on the lower end of frustration with those 2 to 3s, and a small number of people, once again 4, hardly at all care about it. It's definitely frustrating that OTP does this thing, but it appears that most people are able to move on. I'm guessing this is the kind of thing where you'd prefer to not have it, but you can deal with it. Anyways, what would I like to see changed about OTP in the future? Now, these things are not even things that I would see in my ideal game. They're things I think OTP has got to change in the near future in order to keep the game just a quality baseball simulator. Because right now, 24, I don't think it is. I don't think 24 was worth purchasing. I think that it's absolutely outrageous that the game has hardly improved in the 2 months since its launch. Anyways, changes I like to see to the game. Better AI, number 1. That just goes without saying most of the time, but with 24, it's so awful. I don't know if it's because of the pitcher BABIP. I don't know if it's because you can now have 15-year contracts. I don't know if it's because of what, but the AI is just terrible this year compared to where it has been in the past. It's worse than when I started playing OTP. It's ridiculously dumb. It's making stupid decisions. Now, some of the things it's not making all the same stupid decisions. It's hardly ever leaving top 10 prospects unprotected for the Rule 5 or things like that. But the AI is making a lot of stupid decisions. The trade AI is really easy to finesse, even compared to 20. It's bad. They need to fix the AI. It has got to get 22 and late game 23. I'd say were the strongest the AI has been in terms of realism and in terms of competitiveness compared to human GMs. They have got to get it at least back to 23, late 23 and 22 levels by 25's launch. If 25 comes out and the AI is not as good as that, that's absolutely disgraceful for this game as a whole. Number two, there needs to be more options for difficulty. It shouldn't just be you can't. I think the fact that there's probably at least 10% of the people playing OTP, maybe more like 5, but the people who seriously play OETP who are able to perennially win the World Series even on the hardest difficulty. That shouldn't be the case. The game should be challenging for anyone who wants to play, except maybe the best of the best. So maybe you can't make a game where I would be challenged. We should be able to make a game where everyone else, for the most part, is challenged, except for the people who dropped tens of thousands of hours into the game and have done the data analysis to deeply understand it or follow my content super closely, as I know a couple of people do and have reached about my level of proficiency with the game. But it should just become trivial to play against the AI at some point. The third thing, functioning finances. The finances are broken this year. Adding 15-year contracts, yeah, they needed to do that, but they shouldn't have done it at the expense of financial logic. The game is just absolutely stupid with handing out contracts that are way bigger, way smaller than they should be for particular players, and it's really ridiculous because the financial logic I've never had even a remote problem with before this year. It's always been at least okay. I mean, yeah, occasionally they'll way overvalue or undervalue certain players, and yeah, they undervalue defense, but that's not to do with the financial logic. But this year, the financial logic is just horrible. Has got to be fixed. Number four thing, the company needs to communicate. They don't do it at all right now. They'll occasionally release a statement like, oh, we're sorry about this. But usually they don't even do that. They don't say what they're working on. They don't tell the community what's going on. You don't know what's going to happen in the new OOTP game until they release the trailer about a month before the game comes out, even though everyone knows that there's going to be another OOTP game the next year. They need to talk with the community. They need to communicate what they're doing. As people who are supporting the game and putting money into it, you have a right to know what's going on. It does not take a lot of efforts to tell the community what you're doing. OOTP, please, for goodness sake, tell people what's going on. Number five, there have got to be improvements to historical accuracy and functionality. Since I started playing the game in 20, historical games have been left untouched for the most part, except for the changes that they make to live starts. Historical games are not very good. It's like, okay, yeah, I can play it occasionally just for that style of historical play because it's different than live or fictional games. And that's fun for a little while, maybe to some people. But it's historical play, it's arguably even easier to beat the AI than in live starts at times. And at other times, the AI is just completely unwilling to make transactions at all for whatever reason. Historical games just completely need to be looked at and worked on because they've been so long neglected by this game. Sure, historical games probably don't sell as much as live games, but they're a part of your game. You have a responsibility to work on them. And I know plenty of people who love historical games. They're dealing with this stuff. It's just a shame that it's the case that it is, but you have got to put in effort to improving historical play at some point in OTP. And finally, the sixth and last thing I'm going to cover in this video, the game needs to have more structure and effort to things that aren't live starts. And to some extent, perfect team, but they're pretty much two separate sets of people working on the two, I'm sure. So yeah, I hate the fact that live starts get almost 100% of the effort into the game, and then the changes are kind of underwhelming anyway. There's so much to be worked on with fictional and historical starts, because fictional at best feels like a live game. At worst, it feels like a messy fake universe. I mean, it feels like any other GM game basically. Fictional player generation needs to be worked on. Fictional logic needs to be worked on, because really the big benefit that OOTP has that other games don't have is it's deep, it has a lot of features, and it has live starts. Those are their big selling points, yes. So make the other things selling points as well, in my opinion. And obviously, I've already talked about historical. There's a lot of things that need fixing. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Let me know if you have any ideas about what OOTP could do, and we'll hope to see these changes in the future. I'll see you guys on the next one.